Hey people, hope everyone is doing great. Let me prepare a couple of the videos here and check on some of the latest events ongoing. Let me know how you guys are doing. How have you guys spent your weekend? And if you can hear me about right, that would be great. Okay. So yeah. Topic for this live stream will be those 3 points. I think that 3 is about right in terms of having a little bit of a presentation of what I have in mind, some of your comments, feedback, and trying to get back to that. Three topics seems to be the sweet spot. So the first one regarding awareness, self-defense, this stuff that is becoming increasingly important given events that we see unfold. Second one is going to be somewhat linked to one of the videos I did during the week regarding when is it the right moment to get the hell out of there? When is the right moment to bug out, and exactly what do you mean by that? Is it moving within the same state, within the same country, getting entirely out of it, or or maybe something else that you have in mind? Maybe it's something more localized and just a few blocks is doing the trick. And finally, in terms of holiday seasons, Christmas, how do you guys spend your Thanksgiving, surrounded by people, family, loved ones? That's always positive. So let me go through some of these things. Fer, will you talk about some topic in this same topic in the Spanish channel? Yes, I'll do the same thing in the Spanish channel. For those of you that know already, Spanish channel, I'm doing the same thing, live streaming in Spanish. Is called Supervivencia Moderna, my Spanish channel. So if you want to hear me speak in Spanish, and someone was asking me, let me remove this here. So someone was asking me about one of the best ways to learn a second language. Try to listen as much as you can. Try to practice talk as much as you can. For us, this is a big thing. My kids are completely bilingual. They speak English and Spanish just as fluently. Even my youngest one, 4 years old, he doesn't watch TV in Spanish. He watches cartoons and all that stuff in English, and it's surprisingly good, the amount of words that he's constantly picking up. I don't remember what was it. One of those things that surprised me by a very specific word that I haven't heard in English in a long time. But basically watch as much as you can TV in Spanish, no subtitles. Just get rid of those and just train your ear to understand the language. Maybe at first, my suggestion would be for children, they don't need any subtitles. Just let it run in whatever language you want them to learn. But for adults, maybe subtitles at first until you kind of get going, and then try to do without them. So having my changing coffee for, if you pick it there, mate. There it is, mate cocido. So you can have mate with a traditional straw or like a tea. But mate is good stuff. So, Fernando, can you talk about lack of water? Yeah, sure. I'll cover that. What you mean in the Spanish channel when I do it, or here? Suggested topic: conscious movie reviews. Suggested topic: how to diffuse a tense conflict with a stranger. Too many hypersensitive people these days. Fantastic topic suggestion: conscious movie reviews, and I'll absolutely take it into account. So I'd like to start with this that I already showed in today's video in the channel. And for those of you that didn't see it, let me just play it again. This is in New York City, okay? So a guy, he has his tight yoga pants, picks baseball bat, boom, back of the head. Guy goes down, rolls a little bit, keeps insulting, and walks back to him. Obviously, like very angry or agitated, whatever is the case. He keeps on like threatening him. Uh, it almost looks like he stomps on him, but doesn't seem to be the case. Anyway, that's what you see here. So what I was explaining in this video is that you have to be aware of what's going on. It apparently seems to be the case that this was a targeted attack. Someone was going after him specifically. Doesn't seem to be random. I mean, it could be. We have seen random attacks like this before, where people just are crazy and just go stabbing complete strangers for no reason whatsoever. Not that it makes it okay, but my point is, if you just had a discussion with someone, if you just had, a heated interaction with someone, harsh words were said, or threats, or any kind of threat, like, yeah, I'm gonna be killing you, bastard, or you owe me this, or whatever it is, whatever is the case, you have to be in a heightened level of awareness. In a place like New York City, you have to be like this anyway. It is a dangerous city that has gotten a lot worse in the last few years. I mean, it's been last time I was in New York City, I was, a child. So it's been a very long time since I've been there. But based on everything that I see, it's not getting better. It's actually getting a lot worse. So you have to be a lot more careful walking down the street. Avoid these things, headphones, anything that impairs your ability to listen what's going on. Even like quick feet, like anyone that's rushing towards you, you may catch at the last second just to cover yourself. But most of all, cover your six. Look around. No one is stopping you. That guy be dead. Yeah, I mean, the guy could possibly die. It could be the case. But what surprised me was that he was responsive. I mean, if he had a gun, he could have easily drawn the gun from the floor and put a couple of rounds into Mr. Baseball Bat there. Obviously, he wasn't armed or decided not to use a gun. But if you get hit over the head with a baseball bat like that, even if you still remain conscious, you may end up dying that same day later on because of internal bleeding, because of a hemorrhage inside your head, because of the blunt trauma. So this guy could possibly die because of that. I don't know if he did or not, but I'm telling you right now, this guy, given that he was hit in the back of the head with such force, he can easily be left paralyzed or die because of that. So it is a murder attempt, the way I see it. More than enough reason to use lethal force yourself in self-defense. Now, going back to what Conscious Movie Reviews was saying, how to diffuse a tense conflict with stranger. Too many hypersensitive people these days? Yeah, absolutely. And there's there's so many different possible events in which you may one day find yourself. Someone threatening you, someone you don't even know. Crazy people, violent people looking for a fight, looking to have the upper hand, just looking to pick a fight with you. And maybe they just need you to have that extra step and close that gap and actually start the fight. Maybe they just insult you, threaten you. Those are things that just should fly past you. You should not react with violence when someone is insulting you. Now, someone that is closing in distance, someone that has a weapon, someone that's getting closer and could be a potential threat for you, yes, then in that case, you have to respond in some manner. But just because of words, because of someone insulting, let's say you had a fender bender, right? You crash into someone's car, or someone crashed into you. I mean, I've been involved in a couple of those myself. And I cannot remember having anything very violent in a car crash like that. But let's say someone starts insulting the other person, right? How is that you respond? I mean, you can just keep it to yourself. You can just let that fly past you. You can respond right? Hey, what you hit me, or whatever it is, or you can respond in a way escalating that even further. Just responding at times makes things worse. So there's so many things here involved: the tone of your voice, how quickly you speak. Sir, yes, I mean, yeah, my bad. I honestly uh, didn't have enough time to react and could not stop before hitting you. Let's exchange information. The insurance will take care of this. My apologies. Oh, you son of a bitch. You broke my car, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you try to calm things down. You try to de escalate. You try to keep a distance. You try to use your hands, like kind of trying to be polite and submissive, even for the other person. Like, oh, yeah, that my bad. But at the same time, you're keeping your hands here. You're keeping your hands up. If a punch is thrown, just like you're here, you could be here. And as you talk, using your hands to express yourself, you still keep them up here, right? If someone is being violent, aggressive towards you verbally, you just, you try to tone it down yourself. Now, if something is becoming physical, they're closing in. I mean, you may not have much of a choice rather than defend yourself. Hopefully, you have the tools to defend yourself. Hopefully, you have some knowledge on how to handle those things. Be careful about weapons. Someone may have a gun, right? And if you react violently to someone that is already upset, and that person feels in a position of inferiority, or just, you just don't know what's going on with people's heads. So this person just needs for you to say, "Ah, oh, you son of a bitch, you bust my car," and you just say that, and someone may react with with violent force, with shooting at you or trying to stab you or hit you. So you always try to de-escalate all of this. Now, someone may be completely insane and just attack you for no reason whatsoever. I mean, there's this, I don't even know if I should say it or not, or because it just talking about it makes me sick. And I just read it myself. I didn't even witness this. And I've seen some violent shit in my life. Yet reading this just made me sick to the UK, park in London, a woman with her daughter, I think it was, like a child, like a toddler, like 4 or 5 years old. So this woman is walking in the park with her very young child, like a 4 or 5 year old girl. And the girl is running ahead of, the little girl is running ahead of the mother. And, just a little bit further, maybe, a little bit too far because she's running. And all of a sudden, the child falls down, and a woman that is right next to her approaches her, and the mother is just a little bit too far away to see exactly what's going on. But in her non-crazy mind, she thinks, my daughter just fell. This woman walking in the park is just helping her up, helping her, stand again. The woman was stabbing the child. She killed her. She killed this complete stranger, this 4 or 5 year old adorable little girl, stabbed to death right there in the park in front of her mother. This crazy woman was walking around with a knife, and when she saw the little toddler trip and fall right next to her, instead of helping the baby, she just went to start stabbing it in the neck, stabbing the little girl in the neck, and killed her right there. When the mother realized what was going on, she ran towards her. Too late. This is the kind of thing that normal people don't think about too much. I've been doing this sort of stuff for so long that I always end up assuming the worst of people. And I have a 4-year-old, and I would never, allow that to be a possible situation, because I wouldn't ever be that far away from my child, because there's always that thing in the back of my head that someone could kidnap him, someone could attack him, probably a stray dog in the park from some asshole that is not keeping his animal with a leash as he's supposed to. Maybe a dog rushes and bites my kid before I can do anything to stop it. I've been in UK walking in a park with one of my kids, and all of a sudden I had a dog rush straight at us. I kicked it in the face. The owner was like, "Oh, Yeah, fuck you. I couldn't give less of a damn. But this is the kind of thing you should be careful about. I mean, if I'm walking with my child, will I really stop and wait until a dog that is rushing against us to take a bite at my son's face? Of course not. I plant a boot in the dog's face. And that's why that's why you wear boots again, in the first place. And that's why you probably have, somewhat of a heavier, stronger boot, and you have a knife, and you have whatever it is you can have, and you have different tools depending on what is possible. Can you have something like this? Can you have a folder like this? Well, not in UK, you can't, walking down a park in London, but can you have a sub 3-inch pen knife that is perfectly capable of cutting up a dog or a person as if he was a Amazon box just delivered? Yes, you can. That's perfectly legal, but you need to have that mentality. You need to have that kind of thinking so as to have that tool with you, know the law, know what you can have in terms of always being capable of doing this kind of thing. But anyway, this stuff we talk about here all the time, right? My point, you have to be a lot more aware than this guy. I mean, you can still be attacked no matter how aware you are. You just don't know. It could be the case. But in a place like New York, you would expect to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, right? Jill the Great, that's so sad. Did the murderer get arrested? Yes, I think she was. She was this crazy woman, a crazy woman for no reason, stabbed up a little girl in the park in front of her mother. Bad things happen to good people all the time. We just hope it's not us. And statistically speaking, your son, your daughter, your little boy may be bitten by an asshole with a pit bull or whatever dog. Even if it's not a pit bull, even if any other dog could be bitten by it, happens all the time. A lot more frequently than crazy people stabbing children. But nonetheless, you have to be careful. Where I'm from in Argentina, kidnappings of children all the time. Attacks involving armed robbery, kids getting shot all the time as well. So things you have to keep in mind. Am I saying you should live like that with that kind of awareness? And one of the things that happens is if you're living like this, like I lived for so many years of my life, stress starts getting to you. You become almost paranoid. Now, you're not really paranoid because these things are really happening. And now when you live in a different reality like I do now, you adjust that a little bit. It's not always easy, but you try to stay still within a level of awareness so as to not be completely vulnerable. But living like that all the time, yeah, it does take a toll on you. It's not easy. Knockface, thanks, man, for the super chat. As always, much appreciated. REFERRAL, my question is related to bugging out. I firmly believe Biden will not only run in 2024, but will win. I believe U.S. elections are lost, and only candidates who are DS approved will win. Yeah, I mean, a few possible situations there. I don't think voting is hopeless because we see so many examples that when there's enough people that are pissed and upset and vote against some of these people. I mean, for people that voted for Trump, how did that happen? I mean, is it possible that you'll never, ever see another candidate that is not Democrat win? I look back at what happened in Italy with Meloni, who's definitely not on the side of the left-wing agenda politics of Europe, and she still won. And not only her, there's different politicians in different places that have made huge gains. People that are definitely not woke. I'm talking about some conservatives in Europe. I mean, Europe is a continent with different countries, of course, and each one is different in their own ways. But some of the conservative or right-wing politicians in Europe, you wouldn't even have them in the Republican side in the United States. It would be just too far right. It would be just too conservative Christian. It would be considered racist. it would be considered, even within the parameters of Republicans, you could not have them elected. Yet some of these guys are winning elections. So I first thing would be, I don't think you should give up on voting. The idea of I won't even bother voting, that's exactly what they want you to think. The moment they convince you that it's pointless to vote, then that's the moment in which they won. Anyway, but going back to your question, my question is related. I firmly believe Biden will not only run, but he will win. Bugging out. So you're asking about bugging out. I guess you're trying to ask if should you bug out if Biden wins, right? That's a tough one. I don't have a one answer fits all for you, Knockface. I can tell you it really depends on what you want. It depends on so many things, because just like I've said in so many of my videos regarding these topics, there's people that have left Argentina like I did. There's people that went back to Argentina even though they had the option of living abroad in other countries. It may well be the case that someone goes and lives in the United States for a couple of years and then they move back to a place like Argentina or wherever they come from because they just don't adapt and they miss their country too much. So exactly what is that you're looking for? Are you looking for a country that has no commies and no left-wing politicians? Man, that's going to be hard. Now, we have reached a point where, depending on exactly what you're looking for, again, great segue into the next topic of when do you bug out, right? When is the moment that you bug out? And yes, shameless self-promotion here. Let me change the window there. That book over there, Bugging Out and Relocating, that's a book I really put a lot into in terms of your options. How would you consider these things? When exactly is it that you consider bugging out? Is it something that is physically forcing you out of your house, a fire, flood, forcing you out of your neighborhood, large-scale natural disaster, forcing you out of your state, maybe? You know, it's like what you saw in Katrina, where the entire region was affected. So you have to make some plans for that. Now, when you're looking at what you're talking about here, that's not always as easy to tell, because this would be what Knockface is asking here about. What if Biden wins again, right? What if Biden wins again? Should I leave the United States if Biden wins again? And the answer is a most definite maybe. Maybe you should leave the United States if Biden wins again. Things are already bad enough that if someone asks me for advice, depending on what they're looking for, I may advise them to leave the United States. Yeah. And a lot of this is related to the previous video. Well, not the one before that. 12 things that suck from the United States, right? This is an expat that's living in China. Now, if you're living in China and you're telling me how much the United States sucks, I take that with a huge grain of salt. But I don't agree with everything he said, but I do agree with several of the things he says. And it mostly revolves around how much corporations are ruining the United States on several fronts. And bear with me here, the way in which corporations are ruining the health of Americans through poisonous food, promotion of drugs. It is illegal to advertise medication in most other countries that I know of. The only country I've ever lived in that allowed to have advertising, at primetime advertising about drugs and medications, is the United States. No other country allows that. That is illegal. Why? Well, because you get people stuck with drugs that they don't need, and that's not good for them. So you don't allow that. You don't allow companies to take advantage of their purchasing power when it comes to advertising at the expense of the health of people. That is not allowed in most civilized countries, yet it is allowed in the United States. The idea that the United States is the most free country in the world, that's simply not true. The United States has the most amount of people incarcerated, many of them for crimes that are not even a crime in our parts. Like some of the drugs, I mean, depending on the state that you're in, there's people that have ended up in jail because of drugs. And I don't do drugs. I've never did drugs ever in my life, and nor do my kids. I think it's one of one of those signs of weakness that I find repelling, and I strongly advise people not to do those things. But if someone has a drug problem, should they end up in jail? I don't think so. Well, you ask me, oh, he's dealing in drugs. Okay, a drug dealer. Should a drug dealer end up in jail? Yeah, probably. Yeah, depending exactly on what situation is it that you're talking about. Are you selling drugs to children in a parking lot, or do you have a couple bags of marijuana or whatever or pills or whatever the crap it is, and you're consuming that yourself, and you sold some of that because you're dirt poor, in part because of the economic problems that many of these companies are responsible for in the first place, and now you land in jail for God knows how many years. You lose a right to own a firearm for the rest of your life because of that sort of thing. So when you look at all of this, and I look at it from my own perspective, my perspective as a middle-aged man with 3 kids, and I want my kids to go to school. I want my kids to get a degree, and I don't want to have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars or even get my kids in debt because of that. I want to have the peace of mind that I won't be this guy ever. All right, I don't want to be this guy ever. Who is it that I'm talking about? Maybe this is just too small. Maybe you don't get to see it. But this is a man that posted in AR15.com that he owes $70,000 to a hospital because he got some rabies shot because he was bitten by a dog. Remember what I said about dogs biting people? Yeah. Well, this guy now owes $70,000 to a hospital because he got a few shots that are free in any other place that I know of, right? Or super affordable. The kind of treatment that is extremely expensive in the United States is a non-issue. So I take that very seriously. The ability of keeping myself healthy, my family healthy, that's a big deal for me. I I had this, something that happened with my youngest kid. It would have been a financial disaster for us anywhere else. Not anywhere else, in the United States. In the United States, I would be looking at bills that I probably couldn't even pay because it is insane. $70,000 to get a rabies shot, really? That's how much it costs? And little else. I don't want to be living always scared of being one accident away of having to declare myself bankrupt. When I look at the pros and cons of what I would get living in one country or another, that's something that comes into mind. So depending on what you're looking for, Knockface, if you want to live in a country that's completely free from left-wing politics and socialists, yeah, that's not going to be easy. You want to stay away from the woke madness that is now so common in the United States? Yes, you will find other countries in the developed world that offer you that. So maybe depending on exactly what you're looking for, maybe it's worth exploring, living a few months, maybe living a year abroad somewhere else, see how you like it. I mean, depending on your own situation, if you are retired, you can go and live, a few months somewhere that is probably more affordable in the United States and offers a better quality of life in many aspects. I know that a lot of you guys hate Europe in general, but it is a continent with very different countries depending on the lifestyle that you're looking for. It's not the same living in UK than living in Germany or in Switzerland or in Italy or Spain or Portugal, Ireland. You have France. You have so many options. If you're like more hardcore conservative, some of the Eastern countries probably have something interesting to offer. Now, will it be apple pie, Thanksgiving, 4th of July? No, it won't. You're going to another country. It is different. Will it be a lot more similar to home than most Americans think? Yeah, that is the case because the world is globalized in all aspects, like in those cultural things as well. yes, it's gonna be maybe not as different as you're thinking. And yes, there's gonna be little things that, man, this is so weird, a cultural difference that I never would have thought of, and those things happen too. Anyway, yeah. Let me go because I see something. Well, Knockface, thanks again, man, for another super chat. Let me answer some of the other questions first. Remember, everyone, there is no one coming to save us. We're the people. We're the people, the ones we are waiting for. Conscious movie reviews. Tip for dealing with aggressive dogs: either grab a stick to throw or pretend you have a stick to throw. They will think you're playing with them and go after instead of you. That could work. Now, I mean, I haven't dealt with a lot of aggressive dogs. Some of the more aggressive ones that I've seen, I don't think throwing a stick would distract them. I mean, I've seen some that are like laser guided to bite someone. When they're focused, like, I'm biting this guy, I don't think that just throwing a stick will help much. Um, I think that with a dog, what you want to do is stay tall, use your height advantage, try to make sure you don't go to the ground. If you get bitten in your leg and you start jumping around and fall, the dog will go for your face, your hands, your neck. That's what their instinct tells them, and that's the kind of thing you want to avoid. Trying to stay on top, trying to be tall. You can you can put a dog to sleep with a rear naked choke. Don't ask me how I know that, but it is possible. You can do that and put the dog to sleep. If you have one of these little things, you can open a dog like a sausage from top to bottom, and as soon as all of his insides are on the floor, the dog will have a very different approach to biting you. But yeah, you want to have something. Pepper spray usually tends to be very effective against dogs, given how large of a nose they usually have and how sensitive their noses are. Yeah, pepper spray, in my experience, can be quite effective. But yeah, you have to be careful about dangerous animals, especially, even worse, when they attack in packs. And there's always the asshole that has 5 pit bulls that he has no control over, and they're just 2 pit bulls, it can destroy even a strong guy, especially if it's a couple of them. Yeah, that could be very dangerous. That woman was a poor refugee that was welcomed by liberals into Europe with signs and a kiss. Oh, she was she was a refugee, one of these immigrants. Yeah, I didn't know that. you know a crazy person could be pretty much anyone. So it just shows how poorly scanned and how poorly selected the process is. Just anyone just walks across the border and does anything. Again, from Knockface, which brings to my main point. At some point, they will target semi-automatic weapons ownership. All they need is a stacked Supreme Court, and the Second Amendment is done. I'm looking at pump actions. Yeah, that's a solid option in terms of even living in Britain. You have the option of having not only a pump action shotgun. I mean, I tell my brother this. He lives in UK. Get your sounding at the risk of sounding like Joe Biden. Get yourself a shotgun. Buy a shotgun. I tell Jill, fire a couple rounds into the air. Like a complete lunatic. You don't do that. But point is, a shotgun can be quite effective. I took a class in UK about practical shotgun shooting. It was quite good. It was a class that was, I think it was a female instructor, if I remember correctly. That woman, she knew how to handle a shotgun quite well. And yeah, I mean, it has to be 24 inches. As far as I remember, it's kind of like long ass shotgun. But if you live in UK and as bad as things are, if that's where you live and you're not planning on moving anywhere else, and you're fine with that, if you're living in UK, you can carry your folded non-locking UK legal pen knife, and you can own a shotgun in your house. And that's going to be a lot better than having no gun at all. Now, would I like to be limited to that or deal with all of the other crap that means living in UK? Personally, no, but that's up to each one. I completely understand why someone could have a different opinion. But going back to your point, yes, pump action shotguns usually are legal in most places. Usually the restrictions for shotguns, usually what you see most restricted are handguns and semi-automatic centerfire rifles, yeah, like ARs, that sort of thing. But looking at talking about Europe, UK would be one of the worst choices in terms of gun ownership. UK and Ireland. As of the rest of Europe, most other European countries, you can own ARs, you can own handguns. I mean, you have to get a gun permit of some sort. But even that, if you compare it to the United States, once you get your gun permit, usually there's no problem with like short barrel shotguns or rifles. I mean, it goes by country, of course, because each country at the end of the day is a sovereign state with their own laws. So, it may be completely different from one to the other. But usually, generally speaking, a good way to go by, look at some of the guns you probably like the most. Glock. Where are Glocks from? Austria. Austria has nice gun laws. Yeah, you will have to get your paper, your permit, whatnot. But usually, Austria would be a country where you can have pretty much most of the guns you have in US. Some of the other, Italy is not bad in terms of gun ownership. Germany, yeah, kind of depends on what you like or not. Then Eastern countries, in Estonia, your gun license is a concealed carry license. So if you're looking at an affordable country that has great, interesting things for new companies and some of the tech aspect, it's one of the more techy countries in Europe, and it's also former Soviet Union country, so they know very well what kind of crap Soviet life is, and they don't want to go back to it. So yeah, that is not a bad idea. Crappy weather like hell, but yeah, it's not a bad option. Eastern Europe is something I always keep my eye on because I don't think it's a bad choice. And some of the benefits you have in these countries are things that are very lacking in the United States, like the idea of affordable healthcare. It is a big deal, man. Whatever reason you want to look into, whatever explanation you want to come up with, the simple fact is that in pretty much any of these countries, you will not be worrying anymore about, hey, one day I may end up sick and won't be able to afford it. That's not a problem that you have in pretty much any other developed country I know of. And there's so much lobbying. I hear some of these guys on YouTube, you don't know how bad it is in Canada. You're full of shit. You're lying. I'm certain you know you're lying. And even if you don't know you're lying, you're still lying. What you're saying is not true. This bullshit you're selling, maybe someone that hasn't seen anything else falls for it, but it's simply not the case. And that's a big aspect for someone with children. The idea of you sending your kids to college and getting a degree and not having to go into debt, that is another big one. The idea of safety as well, that's another one for me. And that's another, key point, how safe it is where you live. So should you be leaving the United States or not? I cannot answer that for you if Joe Biden wins. Now, these would be this is one of the hardest ones to call because it is very personal, and the slow slide into left-wing politics. How much is the United States like Venezuela? Very little. Now, how much is the United States like its own version of Venezuela? Maybe a little bit too much already at this point, because if Joe Biden wins yet again, I mean, you still have some time to go. But if Joe Biden is elected again, or whatever you want to call it, if Joe Biden gets another term, man, yeah, I would probably consider going elsewhere. I don't know. Maybe depending on the state that you're in. Now, one of the things I want to dismiss completely is something that I've heard so many times, which is, if the United States, goes down or becomes like a woke paradise or whatever it is. Everywhere else is terrible. That is not true. That is simply not how reality works. If bad things happen in a place, it doesn't always mean that other places are just as bad or worse. That has never been the way any of this works. And the worse it gets in one specific country because of changing politics, war, whatever the case is, the worse that place is, the more likely it is that in other places you will find better options. So always keep that in mind. Long gun man X says lever action weapons are the AR of the 19th. Lever actions are good options. I'd rather go with a semi-automatic shotgun because of that, semi-automatic ability of another pull of the trigger puts another round down range. That for me is more valuable than the lever action. Lever actions are a lot of fun. I love the ones I have. And I have a nice 357 Magnum that would be the partner of that Python that you see there. So, yeah, I have a little Winchester Trapper 357 Magnum. Some people think that the Trapper, that the Winchester 94 in pistol caliber carbines, in pistol calibers is not all that great. It's been wonderful for me. I had no problem whatsoever with mine. But maybe if you use it a lot, you bust something. Anyway, I'm an AR guy, but I have been looking with interest at Chris Costa. He has done lever. Chris Costa, he has done some cool things with lever actions. Now, my concern with what Chris Costa does with lever actions is how much is it of a fun factor thing compared to how practical it is. I think that with a little AR carbine, man, it is going to be so much more of a better fighting gun than any lever action. I get it. A lever action in 45 centi government is super cool. It is very appealing, and it has a punch like a damn train. But how realistic is that? Now, you're limited to a lever action. Yeah, I probably wouldn't even get that. Probably go with just a 357 Magnum lever action, something that I can partner with a revolver. At the end of the day, with a 357 round on the gut or chest, you're just as screwed as if you were hit with a 45 70 government. Anyway, conscious movie reviews. Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, she gave a speech promoting the green agenda. She's playing both sides, the right as well as globalists. I don't know, man. Green conscious movie reviews. I don't know. Maybe she believes that there's something about environmental concerns. I mean, I have my own environmental concerns as well. Maybe it's not a global warming concern, but I don't like the amount of plastic that is everywhere. I've changed the way I like to have more natural stuff around. Wearing more cotton than the synthetic stuff that I used to like a lot more. I think that plastic is probably terrible for us. There's enough studies and research that shows that the amount of plastic that we're breathing, drinking. So I do have some environmental concerns. Now, if someone does not agree completely with everything you think, is that someone a double agent? I don't think that's the case. I mean, she has said enough serious things that I completely agree with, like the destruction of family, the destruction of traditional values that she's definitely in favor of conserving in Italy. I think that's, man, I don't have to agree with her on everything, right? And her idea of not being kicked out of the European Union, but rather changing it into something that she believes it's supposed to be, I completely agree with her. I think that the idea of being your own, country isolated and fucked and screwed because you don't have the same leverage that you had before, that serves no purpose for your people. You can do the smart thing, which is take advantage of the things that you can get, but while at the same time looking after the interests of your own people. You can do that like she's doing. I think I like her a lot. I think she's great. But yeah, maybe she thinks something different. Maybe she does have some agenda of hers. Politicians usually do. You will rarely find a perfect politician that does everything the exact way you want. But we do what we can. We go with the hands we're being dealt, right? Um, I'm a pro balkanization move to I am pro balkanization move to a red state FL. Yeah, right. So that's another possibility. Like we talked so many times here in the channel about moving to Florida could be the right move for someone. Maybe you don't have to leave the country entirely. Having said that, look at what's happening in Texas. You move to Texas. You think you're now in a better place. What the hell is going on with drag queen shows for children in Texas? How many of those will we see? Corporations ruining and ruling. Yeah, it is. But the thing is, corporations are not allowed to run their lobby and their game everywhere the same way. I think it's by far the worst in the United States than anywhere else. Couple examples I can give you right now. No, you're not allowed to advertise drugs and medications in primetime TV or any TV at all. You're just not allowed to do advertising about medications at all, period. Why? Because that's not how it works. If you're sick, your doctor gives you medication. Oh, but capitalism. Yes. You know what? Fuck those assholes that always pull the capitalism card when it comes to screwing us over. And whenever it comes about benefiting from the government and stealing from our pockets, they hide that capitalism card and become the most socialist assholes in the planet. So no, you're not allowed to promote medications in the same way you're not allowed to advertise cigarettes, right? Now, if you're not allowed to do advertising for cigarettes, how the fuck are you allowed to do advertising for drugs, medications, painkillers, things that people will be just addicted as with cigarettes? What sense does that make? None whatsoever. But power of lobby, of money. You're not allowed to use cartoons to promote junk food in some countries. Did you know that? No, you're not. No, why? Because kids are easily manipulated, and it's not fair for a child to watch a cartoon and at the same time be indoctrinated into eating stuff that is not good for him, eating junk food that will make him morbidly obese and sick and live a miserable life. So you don't allow that. You have a law that says, no, you can't do that because it hurts children. Oh, but I want to do advertising to sell my sugar-coated shit to children. Well, that is just too bad. You will have to move somewhere else to pull that crap, right? So these things, the idea that all laws are always bad, no, there are actually some stuff that keeps people safe and from dying awful deaths and being taken advantage of. So yeah, keep that in mind. MSB 9021, thanks man for being here. And guys, thanks to all of you for being here in the live stream. I really appreciate that. You need somewhere to hide your guns ammo while you're gone. You can't take them with you, and I'd hate to try and start over. I feel kind of stuck here. That's a great point because I was in your exact same situation. MSB 9021. So I was in that exact same situation. I felt the exact same way, and I can tell you how I dealt with that. Much better than expected. I have a very nice collection of guns that I would hate to part with, but I also had a nice collection of guns before. But you know the thing? All of this is just stuff. You can sell the stuff that you like and then buy new stuff that you will like again. MSB 9021, what kind of guns do you have and why do you like them so much? For example, my Python over there, that gun I like a lot, and it's not exactly cheap. A classic called Python, especially the Walking Dead show. That fucking show made Pythons, especially 6-inch stainless steel Pythons, going through the roof because of the Walking Dead. Would it hurt if I have to sell it? Yes. I wouldn't like to sell it at all. Now, having gone through the process of selling almost everything that I had in terms of guns, right? and starting over and pretty much selling everything that I had at some point and starting over. I mean, in just a few months, you can go back to building up your collection, and that is exciting in its own. The idea. Let's say this is specifically for you, MSB 9021. Let's say you make this decision, right? You sell every single gun you have. You move elsewhere, right? You have to get your gun permit or wherever it is. Maybe you have to join a club. You have to meet people. You have to start shooting again, getting in touch with the community. You start buying a gun, then another, and slowly but surely you start building up your gun collection as well. Again, and you have new stuff and you have cool stuff. And yeah, probably you'll miss something that you really liked that was very dear to you. I mean, I sold a Smith and Wesson 629 6-inch barrel 44 Magnum. I love that gun, man. That was the sledgehammer. From the show, from the TV show Hammer's gun, Hammer's 44 Magnum, uh, and it shot great. A classic 629 44 Magnum Smith and Wesson. That gun was beautiful, and till this day, it hurts when I remember, selling it. Now, it was money that was good put to good use, and now I have guns that arguably are even better than that. Now, let's say I one day sell my Python. Would that suck? Yeah. Hopefully, I'll never have to do that. But even if you have to, don't let my point here and the big lesson for you guys is don't let any of this crap. And when I say crap, I'm talking about that chest there. I bought that in UK, and it's like 500 years old or something. It's stupid like that. It is from the Middle Ages. It's an actual antique. If I sell it, can I replace it? Probably not. It is kind of like one of a kind thing. Super cool. I wanted to have like a little treasure chest, and given that I have the option of going through like finding antique stuff like that. But it's tough. It is just stuff. You can buy it again, right? And having gone through the process, it's not as traumatic. It's very liberating. At the risk of sounding like an anti-materialistic commie here, which I'm definitely not, I do think that at times we let our crap enslave us. It is all material stuff. It is not your family. It's not the people you care for. That's always the most important thing. And yeah, I'm getting older. I appreciate more stuff like that and health. As long as I have my health and I have my family, everything else can come and go. And I'll buy nicer, better stuff eventually. I don't give a damn if I have to, drop everything, at the drop of the hat. Like in the Heat movie, be ready to leave. What is it? Someone there knows a quote. What's the quote from Heat? Be ready to drop everything when in 5 minutes if you hear the sirens or the cops around the corner or something like that. Not so extreme, but anyway, let me go. Yeah, running out of time. I have to jump to the Spanish channel, so I'll make a quick run. Thanks everyone for being here. Much appreciated. Let me make a quick run through some of the messages, and we'll see you guys next time. Government insurance is good. I don't know where be the refugees across the border going to come here. Yeah, sometimes people just keep on walking. It's not. I was actually referring to out of country escape. Yeah, I get it. If you're going to one of the countries I've often talked about, and I'll try to do a video, MSB 9021, I'll try doing a video this week about some options that maybe Americans could consider, especially if you like guns. Switzerland would be the obvious choice. Now, Switzerland is not a cheap country. It is maybe one of the best countries in the planet, I believe, and it's great for gun nuts. There's a lot of guns that you can have in Switzerland, but there's other options as well. Finland, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Slovenia. Yeah, Estonia also I would add to that list. Lone Gunman X. Bugging out. There's a short term, then there's long term, where you need a sustainable lifestyle. When SHTF, many in the cities spill out to rural areas, you're not entirely safe in the countryside. Yeah. What's the best night vision option on the cheap? None. There's no good cheap night vision. Night vision is always expensive. I guess there's something out there that's cheap, but man, usually night vision it is expensive. There's not much you can do about it. And I haven't bought anything in terms of fancy night vision. People in the know will tell you. If you're going to be spending money for night vision, spend a little bit more and get good stuff. Now, is it really a priority night vision? I don't think it is. Honestly, I don't think it is. Lebon scheme off subject, but did you ever play a game called DayZ? DayZ didn't know, man. No, I haven't played DayZ. It's been recommended to me. I've played Project Zomboid and I liked it. Project Zomboid, look it up. That's nice. I've been playing Star Citizen. I've been playing No Man's Sky as well. No Man's Sky also cool. Yeah, I played DayZ. Nope, haven't done it. Awesome game. It's been suggested, so I have to check it out. JS, conscious movie reviews. Nowhere will be safe in an SHTF collapse, but I'd sure rather be established in a rural area than the inner cities if when it happens. Well, I can tell you this: if things get bad like everywhere, there will be countries that are better off than others, depending exactly what's going on. If the U.S. economy collapses, or there's war with Russia, or whatever it is, there's probably going to be somewhere out there in the world that is better off. It's always a case when bad things happen in certain parts of the world. There's usually places that are better off. And yeah, going back to the same topic, there's now places that maybe you could be better off as of right now, depending on what you want for yourself. I'm hoping MSB. I'm hoping it's in the same state, but would like to be a bit further out. I can work online from home until I retire for 5 years, if long. Yeah, always having options, moving around. It's worth it. Carlos, thanks for the super chat, Carlos. There's the comment: watch out for gun laws in other countries. With Lula here in Brazil, there is already talks confiscating and banning all legal guns. Even cops might not have permit to gun. Well, that is the kind of thing that I have advised people in the past. Don't go with a country that is as unstable as Brazil. Of course, it could have happened. It was just recently that Bolsonaro had a little bit of a run with allowing some guns, and yeah, now it changed again. The more longer they stay in office, the more voting rules will be fashioned so that the conservatives will never get elected. It may already be there. It may. I don't think it's still there, but it may well be the case. Or the damage that they can do may be too bad already. Thanks for all you do, Fairfa, Jeremiah Mathis. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Jay Morris. Not enough conservatives care about local politics. They think only the president or governor is what matter. Yeah, that's a problem with strongly presidential systems. You just rely too much on whoever the hell is in office. Before you leave, RoboCops in California next week to cover. Yeah, great topic. That is super dangerous because once the law is passed, who's stopping them from having something automated hunting people down, man? That is scary. Again, the kind of thing that, at least from now, it's not allowed in most other countries. So you see how little by little they're doing things that just keep getting worse. MSB 9021, thanks for the super chat. Much appreciated. Guys, seriously, the super chats help a lot for the channel. It's something I love doing, but YouTube is not exactly promoting much of the kind of stuff that I do. Right. So anyway, yes, gotta jump over to the other channel. If you want to follow me in my Spanish channel, is Supervivencia Moderna. You probably have the links there below. So see you next video, folks, in the next time, hopefully next weekend, okay? Happy Sunday. Yes, Queen of Kiss Cosmetics. Okay, have a great day. Bye. Thanks, everyone.